Some of you may remember a little game called War Master from the early 2000s. Warhammer Fantasy on an epic scale. Today on the Hobby Grotto, I'm going to show you my complete collection. All of this was painted back when I was a teenager, and some of it was never painted at all, but I have everything from the Orc and Goblin army list represented in some way here. Let's have a closer look, starting with the rank and file Orc Warriors. I've got the Savage Boys variant here. There were two kinds of models for your regular Orc Warriors. I've got the traditional boys, but I never got around to finishing them because I preferred the Savage Orc Boys at the time, and these are the ones I used in my army. I don't quite know why. Maybe they look a bit more vibrant in this tiny scale, which is 10mm scale, incidentally. I love the goblins. Even though they're so small, they just perfectly encapsulate the, Night Goblin design from the time. Although I couldn't quite paint those sweet robe designs. I love how chaotic the unit looks with the squigs jumping out. War Master was played with these entire unit stands, with the minis cast in strips so they could create these really animated units for the tiny scale, which was fun and impressive, and you didn't need to worry about, models ranking up or anything like that. Now these were the mainstay of any self-respecting Orc army, the Boar Boys. I think the cavalry look great the way they're based long ways, and with everything being kind of unreliable in the Orc army, you need some heavy hitters. I like the little guy with the Centurion style helmet there. Before we move on to some of my favourites from the range, a quick look at some of the unpainted ones. Black Orcs, I think these were Black Orcs, maybe they're just regular warriors. And the Goblin Wolf Riders, very nice little minis. I could see myself painting one of these right now, to be honest. No idea why I never got around to painting these. Going hand in hand with the Wolf Riders are the Wolf Chariots. They're a bit hard to see when they're not painted, I know, but they've got a nice scale to them. That was what was also really cool about War Master, was they could kind of adjust the scale a bit more and make some things look a bit bigger in comparison to the rank and file. Now, the Rock Lobber. I was never much a fan of this design. I always thought it should have looked like the iconic fantasy ones. That would have looked so cool in this 10mm scale, but it's not bad. It did come with lots of neat little crew, which is why I put it on the slightly larger base. And you gotta have artillery, it's just a part of Warhammer battles. The bigger creatures are my favourite models in the army, and top of the list for me are the Trolls. They nailed the iconic design of the larger fantasy ones, which is so good. Here's some lovely specimens facing off against Karl Franz, no less. Great fun to paint a bunch of Trolls like this. I remember they were a bit useless in games, as you'd expect with their stupidity, but the entire Orcs and Goblins army is kind of silly, you can't take it too seriously. The Ogre models are awesome, so much character, and both the Trolls and Ogres were shared with other armies and, not unique to Orcs and Goblins, but they do really feel like part of the theme to me, and they do some clobbering, of course. They're also the older design of Ogres, the classic Ogre before they took on the more Eastern vibes in later fantasy. Now, the centerpiece of the army, the Giant. Oh, I love this guy. I never had the original Giant model because I was adamant I wanted to make my own, and the way this turned out with him bumbling along, chasing after the squig, was everything I could have hoped for as a young lad. Incidentally, made from the old GW Zombie sprue. I still use that sprue to this day. In fact, I have a video on speed painting this very designer zombie, but back to the Giant. He was always one of my major motivations to get the army on the table, and I'm so glad he survives to this day. Onto the characters, starting with the Wyvern. He's a bit chipped here and there, and I never painted the rider for some reason, but it's a lovely model. The Wyvern always seemed to be the classic Orcs and Goblins monster. They weren't about dragons, they were about wyverns. I don't remember seeing it in any other armies. The one thing that really surprises me though, is that the wings haven't broken off after all these years. I don't remember pinning them, but perhaps I shouldn't tempt fate. This is just a chariot that a character can ride in. I like it though, it's my only painted chariot. Got a ride-in style. There were lots of different Orc hero models. You could kind of mix and match them on the bases, which are all just coins incidentally, because in War Master, the characters were just a point on the battlefield for issuing commands. The Shaman models were a personal favourite. Again, so much character and a chance to paint some fun bright colours. His little magic cauldron is awesome. The Goblin Shaman is great because he's like the smallest miniature in the entire army, but his mind is a steel fortress. Also a battle standard bearer, just a regular Orc hero. Love the squig on top of the banner though. 10mm squigs are something, I tell ya. And that's the collection. Every unit from the Orcs and Goblins army represented in some way, and it's always a lovely trip down memory lane looking at this stuff I painted 20 years ago. Takes me right back. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed seeing this stuff as well. Let me know in the comments if you like these kinds of showcase videos, and we'll see you next time on the Hobby Grotto.